What are you doing? Archer, what you doing? All right, we're out here in the garage with Archer, the super dog, and I pulled the forks off the bike. Okay, so I want to do a video about what's inside of them, and this is going to be a little crappy because I'm sitting on a stool when it's handheld, but anyways, it just fell off the stool. All right, so the forks are over there, leaning up against little Joe. They're draining. But here's what's inside my forks. Now, what's inside yours will be different. And if you have a KLX, what's inside mine will be really different. But first, when I take the forks out, since we already loosened the fork caps, I just screw those off by hand. Okay, so that's the fork caps there. And then next was this little preload spacer. So I took that out. And then there was a washer. And the bottom thing here are my Cogent Dynamics DDC, dynamic drop-in cartridges. And then, of course, the spring goes in under the washer. So the order is fork cap, well, sorry, that's stupid. Okay, so the DDC goes in the bottom. Then I would put the spring in. Then I put the washer in. Then I put the preload spacer. And then the fork cap goes on. Okay, so when I take stuff out of the forks, I just lay it on paper towels in order here. Now, one thing to know about fork springs is sometimes they have a narrow end and then a wider end, and it can be very subtle. So if you're not sure, you can set them up, the ends of them up against a long straight edge, like a board or something, and you'll see that one end does not touch the board as it goes down the length of it. If you have a narrow end on your spring, the narrow end goes into the fork first. Okay, so the wide portion of the spring would be at the top of the fork. All right, now as far as the fork tubes themselves, there they are. So after I pull the stuff out of them, I just go over to my little oil pan over there, and I turn them over and make a big mess on the floor, and I just dump the oil out. After you've dumped the oil out, what you want to do is over your pan, you want to pump these. Can't really do it one-handed, but put one hand here and one hand here, and you can pump them together, and it'll pump more of the oil out. I do that about 20 times. After you're done doing that, I just set them up against something on some paper towels, and I let them drain like 15 to 30 minutes. Okay, and I just want to get all the old oil out. The oil that came out of there was kind of discolored and kind of stinky, so there's definitely time to change it. Now, when you go to put the oil back in, okay, you got to look at your service manual, and your service manual will tell you how many milliliters, or it'll tell you what height from the top the oil should be, and it'll also say whether you should measure that with the spring in or out, and with the tube fully collapsed. So if I was going to do this, like mine might say, okay, with the tube fully collapsed down in there, make sure the oil is X number of millimeters from the top. So it would want me to fill the oil up and have like so much air gap, all right? Or it might say, like, put 500 milliliters in there, and you can use a metric measuring cup, or I have this little syringe type thing from Motion Pro that you put oil in and squirt it down in there, so you can kind of measure and keep track. Now, once you put the oil in there, what you want to do is hold the fork up and down like that, and then you want to pump it up and down gently, so you don't squirt oil everywhere, because it'll squirt all over the place out of the top if you do it too hard. But what you're looking to do is bleed all the air out. And if you pump it a bunch of times, then you just let it sit, and you look at it, look down in there, you'll see all these little air bubbles percolating to the top. So you want to keep doing that pumping and bleed the air out of the oil in the valves and stuff in there until no more bubbles come up to the top. Okay, once you're done doing that, then you want to put the rest of your stuff into the fork, and then hand tighten the fork cap on there. Okay, so when each one of those is done, then you'll be ready to reinstall the forks in the bike, which I'll do another video on that. But the important thing is don't get your parts mixed up. So I have them separated to left and right forks. So I put everything back in the fork it came from. And get all the oil out you can, and then bleed all the air out before you seal them up. It's especially important on like these forks. These are very simple forks. They do not have air bleeders or anything to bleed out air later on. So I'm going to get them as good as I can before I put them back together. Alright, so I'm going to let these drain the rest of the way, and then I'm going to put the oil and put all the shit back in there, and then get ready to put them back on the bike. And I'll do another little video about that. I'll see you. Archer's helping.